Does our alcohol use keep us from having the life that we want, or have we just given up on our dreams? And what do we value in life? Do we value health or strong family relationships? Do our dreams include maybe finishing our education or owning our own business, or say a particular career? Whatever it may be, how does it feel to not be living out your values? Well, I know how it feels, and it sucks. Hello and welcome back. I'm Jess. And today's topic affects almost every human being on the planet, and those of us who use or have used alcohol know it all too well. As we grow up, we naturally develop values, things that at one time defined who we wanted to be. What we wanted to characterize our life, the short time that we're here as this particular human being. As we grow older, we get caught up in all the difficulties of life and sometimes lose hope that we'll ever actually be able to live out our values. And if substance use becomes our way of coping with life, any hope of actualizing our dreams and living out our values seems to fade away. We have become lost in this self-narrative of despair and hopelessness. These emotions that we have about ourselves are extremely complex. It's like we've betrayed ourselves by our choices. It's a tough place to come out of, and alcohol and other substances seems to keep us from discovering the place that's deep in our being, where truth and our fundamental nature are the one who we are before we define ourselves by all our stories. It just keeps us on the surface where, all this mind stuff has created our problems. This distorted self-image, a sense of inadequacy and unworthiness. And we just live in this big mental mess. And alcohol wants to keep our attention there. It may seem like it provides this numbing layer in the moment, but it's just holding us there in that place. In the early days, alcohol promised us just a way to relax and have a good time. It's a temporary fix to relieve, a sense of stress. And at this point, we usually can't address the issues behind, our mental anguish. So we just do what we have to do to feel better for a while. But the problem is that for some of us, it becomes the go-to fix over and over and over again, and we just can no longer relax without it. Since it changes the brain in such a way that we don't stop and look for healthier ways to manage stress. It's really a terrible roller coaster to be stuck on. Every now and then, I'll come across an old photo of myself during my drinking days, and I can see instantly how heavy alcohol use affected my outward appearance. That bloated, flushed face, and most noticeably, the look of despair and sadness in my eyes. I've always valued health and a certain level of fitness and various athletic pursuits. And as a Marine, I had to maintain pretty strict standards of physical appearance. And, I also valued these things for myself. When I started drinking a lot, I found it harder and harder to live out my values. I had betrayed myself. So over time, I created a new self narrative about how much of a failure I was because I couldn't maintain my own standards. My self definition was that I was just weak and pathetic because I just couldn't get my shit together. Of course, the issues go deeper than how I felt about health and appearance, but at this point in my life, I just lived on the surface. My entire existence at the time was in my head, with all that mind stuff. I didn't know how to be any other way. And most people do live this way. They live in complete identification with their problems and, all the stories that define themselves. Now, continued use of alcohol to the point of dependency is like having concrete poured over us. And we're stuck on this perpetual hamster wheel of drinking, and feeling bad, and then drinking more, and then feeling worse, and drinking more. We hate ourselves for it. There's a part of us standing kind of on the sidelines a little bit back here, watching a movie of just a person self-destructing and making bad choice after bad choice. Shame seems to just permeate our whole being. But somewhere deep inside, we remember what our values were. We remember our old dreams. This is what makes all of this so painful. The shame that we carry because of our own self-betrayal, our lack of integrity towards ourselves. And it's like it emanates from our pores, and it just affects every area of our inner and outer life. This inner battle, it spills over into our relationships. And if you've ever lived in a home with people who have substance abuse problems or alcohol use disorder, I'm sure you can relate. I've been on both sides of the fence, which gave me a whole new understanding of what my mother and father were experiencing. Alcohol use disorder puts a heavy strain between us and the people that we love. It's a constant fight filled with hurtful words, misunderstandings, and sadly, sometimes even violence and abuse. And our natural emotional bonds with our loved ones are just severely affected. Most of us value having a strong, loving relationship with our family members, and it's really hard knowing that our alcohol use has created these divisions. And if this is you, I hope you can make amends and repair those damaged relationships. And even if the boundaries have been set with our loved ones due to our drinking problem, we have to be true to ourselves first if there's going to be any hope. People in recovery can agree that they missed out on many special moments in life. And when your life is spent checked out in a boozy haze, you're not in touch with reality in the moment. Your kids, they needed you. Your partner, your spouse, your grandchildren, they needed you. But instead, they just got the shell of you. Now, when we come out of the other side of alcohol use disorder, we realize just how many moments we missed out on by not being consciously present. Life is so much better when you are there for these precious moments, even the challenging moments in life, because, well, they're going to come too. When I was in the midst of my drinking career, I would sometimes wish that I had never even decided to start drinking. And I was a non-drinker for most of my life. But in my early 30s, I went through some pretty difficult things, and I started using alcohol to cope. Recently, I found an old family home video that was taken right before my drinking started. I was a young wife and mom. And ladies, I know how you hate it when somebody calls you young lady. I found myself saying to myself in the video, young lady, you have no idea the wild train wreck your life is about to experience. But I am here today with overflowing gratitude for having survived it. And that's the only reason I'm making these videos. If you find yourself at the edge of what could turn into problematic drinking, that could turn into something worse than it is, I hope that you have the self-awareness to see the potential risks it could have to your happiness and to any growth that's in alignment with your values. Growth comes when we're willing to step out of our comfort zone, and drinking too heavily, too often, for too long will cause your ability to do so to atrophy, or so it seems, because it just keeps us constantly seeking relief and comfort. We're always looking for that familiar feeling of comfort and ease, and we never seem to overcome our fears and discover the ground of our being that's deep inside. We will always only know ourselves as our thoughts, as our feelings. It's like our growth is stunted and we never really learn about our true selves. Coming into sobriety can teach you things about yourself you wouldn't have even discovered had you had not become sober. I've often found that people in recovery have this special bond of wisdom with one another. In closing, I would just encourage you to look at your values. And even though values differ from person to person, most people have good values, respectable values. These values that are concerned with what makes life worth living. But somewhere along the way, a divide happens between us and our values. If somewhere along this path of life we decided that alcohol will be our master, it's harder to break down that divide. If that has happened to you, I hope you don't give up. We can reclaim our lives, we can reclaim our minds, we can reclaim our health, and we can have a chance at mending relationships. And we can be there for those special family moments. We can complete that education, we can start that business, we can travel the world. Now, when sobriety finally struck for me and I started the work of recovery, there was a strong sense of, wow, anything is possible now. That hit me like a tidal wave. It was a sense of freedom and infinite potential like I had never experienced before. So thank you for joining me today. I'm grateful to those of you who have commented and watched these videos. In the world of social media and YouTube, it's really tough to catch people's attention these days. Our modern minds are so distracted by the overflow of information. We're always just looking for that next dopamine hit. And starting a new channel like this from scratch is never easy because the YouTube algorithm doesn't pick it up immediately. So I thank you if you are watching to this point. I'm usually very private, so sharing these details is not easy, but I have faith that the message is going to reach those who need it. My message is nothing particularly special over anybody else, but sometimes, just resonating with another person is helpful. So again, thank you, and I will see you next time.